All right, so we've done scale stuff, we've done chord stuff, we've done emotion, we've done exercises and etudes. We've talked about things. Let's try and implement some of this stuff into how we approach songs and how we play. And so we're going to break down a handful of songs because doing all those exercises without actually putting them into use is kind of pointless. It's just, hey, I can play scales, but I can't play music. So let's go through a few songs. We're going to break them down. We're going to start off in like really simple ways of doing it. And then like, hey, here's some more creative ways that maybe I would play in a more acoustic setting, or, we're just trying to have a ton of fun. Maybe I want to do something really crazy and wild. And so that's what we're going to do now. So the first song we're going to check out, let's just check out the number one song in worship music right now, CCLI Top 100. It's Goodness of God. So everyone knows the song. So everyone knows that song. So let's start super, super simple. So, you got this intro. All right, let's just assume that's what you're going to do. So, I love you, Lord. So if you notice on that, I'm really doing a lot of this just kind of open fourth, open 50 type of sound. This is always a fun sound because it really shouldn't work, but it kind of does because it's just giving you a little bit of tension like really quickly, then it resolves. Kind of resolving this. So sometimes starting off songs, you can start really pretty, you can start really open. I like to sometimes start songs just really open. If you think back to, when we talked about in the chord section, what notes it's okay to play multiple times, and when you're voicing a chord, which ones are not okay, which ones are better. In this, you're kind of avoiding any of the problem notes, because the problem notes can be, if you stack up thirds and sevenths, like we talked about, if you stack those up too much, those can become problems. You're really kind of avoiding that in these types of voicings. So there's not a ton of thirds. You're getting a third when you're doing the A minor this way. You're getting this, but they're really simple voicings because you're only playing, 3 notes at a time. Maybe there's some electric swellies going on, and there's, other things happening that kind of fill up some space. This is a great way to start a song. You can also do that kind of up the octave too. I love you, Lord. Alright, so doing this kind of open fifth thing sounds cool. Up the octave too, it's a little prettier. It has a little bit less weight to it, and it can be a little bit more distracting as an open voicing. So this could be something where, you practice like finger independence like we talked about, and playing different notes in the same hand with different intensity. So trying to play this G a little bit harder than the C. It's hard to do. So even in this, I'm kind of like really accenting the G a little bit more, but kind of flirting with the C, so. I'm kind of getting a little drone. So that can be a way you kind of lighten up the top note. The top note in a chord, typically and generally, is going to be the note that kind of leads the chord vibe and tone and really kind of sets the mood of the chord that you're playing. And so that's why there's a difference between this versus, right? Those all have different tones to them. And so playing a root on top is a very homey kind of rooted feel. This is it's a very bright sound. And so that's something to always think about when you're playing is like, hey, what mood am I trying to invoke in this certain moment? And do I want to have a third on top? Do I want to have a fifth on top? This is not stuff that I consciously think about when I play. It's just kind of becomes instinctual of, hey, I want to kind of drone. So I'm not going to have a third on top. If I'm droning, there's not a third on the top of the chord because that's almost too happy and bright. I like this one on top. All right, so that's a super simple drony way to play a verse. What if maybe we want to start the song off with a little bit more intensity, or this is like a verse 2, right? I love you. So in that kind of version, you're getting a little bit more fill-ins to each of the phrases. So I love you, Lord. Oh, yeah. So that's a great. So you're just kind of arpeggiating up the C chord, coming down to the third of F or the 4. And then hitting at the melody. So that's I love doing that on this song. Oh, I will sing. That's another way to play the verse. That feels kind of like a verse 2 type of vibe where you're just kind of really sinking in. You're not playing a ton of drony stuff, but your maybe drums are kind of in, electrics are kind of doing a thing. You're kind of playing more of the piano part. So that's a great verse 2 vibe. Let's just say we want to get a little bit more creative and have a little more fun with the verse. One way you can do it could be to kind of do something like this. I love you. Oh, yeah. Right, so all I'm doing is just, and then kind of doing that nanu thing that we kind of talked about earlier. So right, so that could be a down verse, that could be a verse 1. That's a little bit more creative, a little bit more of a thing. But, you know, like a lot of songs, if you play them the same way over and over and over and over again, it's like, okay, let's kind of do something different. And so that could be a different way that you play it. Another thing is you can just go full nanus, right? So you can go, I love you, Lord. So again, you know, we've talked about nanus, but really all you're trying to do is you're trying to avoid playing the same notes at the same time. That kind of just starts to become habitual and just how you just kind of, your fingers know like to play different things, but you know, it can be different because sometimes I do. And so sometimes I'll start on the 5th. Another thing to think about when you're doing this is it's really nice to have some voice leading kind of melodic stuff, even in the nanus. So that could work, kind of driving that through the chorus. So let's go to the chorus now. Let's talk about different ways you can play the chorus. So you can kind of keep that open voicing kind of approach. You know, or you can kind of speed up that intensity. right? Or you can kind of take a more lead line approach in your right hand and do more chordal stuff in your left hand. So these are just different concepts of, if you're full groove, maybe you're like, that can really work especially if you have guitars like driving too. Like, this open fifth sound really works almost on any song, especially in bigger sections. Right, so you can try that, or you can kind of get more blocks and meat out of your left hand and do more lead stuff or in your right hand. So. So all that kind of stuff is really just utilizing the third, the seventh, and the one. So. All my life you haven't. You can build a lot of great melodic counterpoint ideas just off of highlighting the third and the seventh and the root. Those are great notes to hang out on. Because you can almost think about chord to chord, just going third to third and just walking your way there. So. Right? So that's one way. You can also do kind of the Nanu thing we did earlier as like a down chorus. So you can either do the. Kind of getting that 1 major 7 passing chord in. And a song can have a swing feel to it, so it could make more sense to do kind of like a. Right? So that's also another option. And then let's just say we want to do a mega chorus. Like this is the final chorus. You can kind of get meatier in the left hand, meatier right hand voicings. So then as far as the bridge goes, you can really apply any of those concepts to the bridge. So sometimes, we'll do like a down bridge. So then it gets big. Yeah, so that's kind of fun. So that's several different ways to play Goodness of God, from super beginner to super not beginner. And again, how you approach playing these songs is really dependent on your environment, like what the band is doing, how many instruments you have. You probably get a little more creative if you have more people to lean on, or even like if it's really stripped back, you can kind of multiple ways to play it. Hopefully that's helpful. That's Goodness of God. Let's get on to the next song.